In the 1960s, South Korea was one of the poorest nations on earth. Its GDP per capita was similar to Kenya and Nigeria. In fact, many experts at the time believed that African countries had a brighter economic future. Nigeria had oil, Kenya had fertile agricultural land, and both had just gained independence, filled with promise. Meanwhile, South Korea was devastated by war, with little more than determination.
Kenya does not need to play in the third league. Vile amesemwambia nyinyi 1960 kulikuwa na nchi tatu ambazo zilikuwa katika the same state of economic development: Ghana, Kenya na South Korea. In terms of demography, population, in terms of per capita income, in terms of literacy levels, the major economic indicators, those three countries were at par. 1960. Today, those are now 65 years. 65 years. Korea has moved from the third world economy to a first world economy. Per capita income in Korea is over nearly 40 times higher than these other countries. So you ask yourself, what is it that the Koreans got right, that the Kenyans got wrong? If you answer that question, then you're on the way to solving the Kenyan problem.
Back then, Kenya and Nigeria were expected to rise fast. They had resources, young populations, and strategic trade positions. South Korea, on the other hand, relied heavily on foreign aid and food assistance. It had no oil, no gold, no farmlands, just a war-torn population facing starvation and unemployment. So what changed? South Korea's leaders made a bold decision: invest in people and industry. Education became the foundation. Literacy soared. The government pushed land reforms to empower small farmers and eliminate inequality. Then came industrial policy, moving from basic textiles to steel, shipbuilding, and eventually high-tech electronics. In the 1970s and 1980s, South Korea birthed industrial giants like Samsung. These companies were nurtured by state policy, subsidized loans, and protection from foreign competition until they were strong enough to compete globally. By the 1980s, South Korea had already started to pull ahead, while Nigeria was grappling with oil price shocks and corruption, and Kenya was struggling with political patronage and weak industrialization. South Korea was exporting cars, ships, and electronics to the world. Today, the results are staggering. South Korea's GDP is nearly $2 trillion. Kenya stands at around $115 billion, while Nigeria is Africa's biggest economy, is at $477 billion. South Korea alone produces more wealth than half of Africa combined. Its exports in a single year, semiconductors, cars, smartphones, dwarf all of Kenya and Nigeria's exports put together. Today, the average South Korean earns about $36,000 per year. The average Kenyan or Nigerian earns just over $2,000 USD. South Korea has universal health coverage, bullet trains, and 5G internet. In contrast, African countries still struggle with unreliable power, poor infrastructure, and dependence on imported goods. Now, South Korea's success was not just accidental. It was built on education and human capital, transforming citizens into skilled workers, export-oriented industrialization, producing for global markets, strong governance and long-term planning even under tough regimes, investment in technology and research and development, ensuring competitiveness. Meanwhile, Kenya and Nigeria faced recurring political instability, corruption, reliance on raw material exports, and limited industrial policy. What is the lesson here? The lesson is clear. Natural resources do not guarantee prosperity. South Korea had almost none, but through vision, discipline, and investment in its people, it rose from poverty to become a global powerhouse. Kenya, Nigeria, and Africa at large still hold incredible potential. With over 1.4 billion people, abundant land, and resources. The continent could follow a similar path if leaders choose the hard road of industrialization, innovation, and good governance. Honestly, in the 1960s, South Korea, Kenya, and Nigeria stood shoulder to shoulder. Today, South Korea stands shoulder to shoulder with the world's richest nations, while Africa still battles poverty. The question remains, can Africa rewrite its story and create its own miracles, or will it continue to watch others turn dreams into destiny?